Happy Wednesday, UnWoke Nation, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 41 of the UnWoke Show, where free speech is welcome, all subjects are on the table, and your boys Rich and Tim bring you the latest and greatest information every single week for your entertainment, baby. I am your co-host Rich, along with my boy over here, Timmy. How you doing, Timmy?
Good, and you, Rich? Man, it's great to be back.
Doing great, man. Doing great. Hey, guys, we want to thank you so much for all the feedback we've gotten here since 2024 has started, and we want to give a good shout out to all the people who have been hearing about us, and I know Tim said he's seen some brand new followers, and also
we picked up a new follower, Fire and Ice. Thanks for checking us out and listening in. We really appreciate it. So, guys, we are on all the major podcast platforms out there. We're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you name it, Google. We're out there. You know, tune in, check us out. We want to hear from you. You can reach us at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. That is feedback@unwoketheshow.com. And tonight we're kicking this one off with the Lone Star Border Showdown. That's right, folks. We are going to cover the Texas border crisis. So to get us going on this topic, this has been a pretty hot topic and discussed in the news. It'll definitely be a political topic discussed during presidential debates coming up later this year. But we're going to kick off with, since President Biden took office, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed the southern border. In response, Texas built physical barriers. Those are those razor wire fences that went up. There was even old shipping containers that had been put up to keep illegal immigrants out. In some places, the illegal border crossings dropped by more than 2/3. President Biden caught wind of this, told Texas to remove the razor wire and to allow the people to come over. Texas said, fuck off, Joe. It came down to the Justice Department is threatening to sue Texas over this. They're talking about this from a severity perspective. And so there were over 302,000 encounters along the southwest border in December, marking the highest monthly total ever recorded.
302,000?
Yeah, 302,000.
My goodness.
Incidents along the border. How did we get here? If you've been paying attention to any of the Republican debates, right, open borders has been a massive topic, right?
Yes, it has.
And so, as it stands, President Biden's reckless open border policies have created an ongoing crisis at the southern border as record levels of illegal immigrants and deadly drugs pour into Texas. I think it's fantastic that Texas has said, listen, we're not going to put up with this, right? If the federal government isn't going to step in, i.e. Congress and the president, and do something about this, Texas governor has stepped in and said, all right, we're not having this. Is there a way to, or not way, in this instance, is assigning blame even possible at this point? I don't think so, since no branch is really responsible for the border crisis, right? If you think about it, it hasn't been addressed in any real capacity, right? It's a political football. It's a way to score points.
But wouldn't you agree, Ward, that the president, when he is given a vow about there being the sovereignty of the United States of America?
I don't know that. I don't know that I agree with that, because wouldn't Congress fall under that as well, too? I think responsibility is shared throughout our system of government. And I think it's fair to say that our system of government, as it relates to immigration, is failing and is continuing to failing. Rich and I were talking off the air before tonight's show about this very topic, and it's just very interesting to see that I think Democrats are trying to leverage this as a way to skew. I don't want to say skew, but a way of trying to amass potential voters for this year's election. Right? Come into our country, we'll give you asylum, we'll get you registered to vote. Vote for Biden because he's, vote for our President Biden because he's the one that has helped pave the way for you to get your, asylum, your ID.
I mean, I definitely think, Orda, that is the agenda. You mentioned that it's for potentially for this upcoming election. I don't know if it's so much for that, or obviously there's a lot of processes that probably would have to go through, and also, but what I think, and I've been saying this for several years now, especially when this has become more into the forefront, I think what this administration and probably just the Democratic Party in general understands where that, look, they realize, here's the thing, guys out there, especially guys who are from the United States and everything. So they've already shown statistics where the Hispanic Americans are probably going to be the majority ethnicity where in the United States by, if I stand correct, and I know Tim can look this up, by I think they said about 2050. And so
that's probably accurate.
So when you have that in mind, where you just got done saying in 1 month we had 302,000 people infiltrate through the border. Now there's been over several million, where even prior to the numbers that we just stated.
Right.
So with that in mind, what I do think the agenda is not so much we're dealing with the 2024 election and everything. But I do think we're thinking about 28 and 32 and those type of elections where I think you were spot on is because they already know that Hispanics are going to make a majority of the population. They realize where that African Americans are not going to be the main center as a voting bloc to get them elected.
Well, I think it's been stated in several articles out there that Biden is struggling with the black vote.
Which is shocking, but it's like being a Democrat, and so it's really shocking because unfortunately in our society here in the United States, it's just this belief that if you are an African American, you automatically are supposed to vote Democrat, and if you think anything different, you're a race traitor. I mean, you have your own president that sits there and says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Right.
So I mean, that's just what crazy. But no, I think there is a major agenda that's going on right now, but they are doing exactly what you just got done, Tim, where they want, it's like, look, we need you guys to come over the border so like that we have people who are legal immigrants who are chanting Biden's name on national television.
Right.
And also we're having people who are coyotes, cartel, whatever you want to call them, and stuff like that are basically helping them go across the border, see our cameras on this side, put up their hands like, oh, well, I'm doing this and you can't fucking stop me.
Right.
And doing those different things and all. But no, I think that you are absolutely right where they realize that we need to be able to get a future voting bloc going through. And if this is going to help us in the next elections, in the next 2 to 3 term election periods, so be it.
And I don't think it's out of the realm that could potentially happen, right? Where this is all taking place is down in Eagle Pass, Texas, right? There's been a continuing feud between Texas and federal authorities over how to tackle the migrant crisis and who has jurisdiction over the part of the U.S.-Mexico border, right? In fact, the case went all the way to federal case went all the way up to the Supreme Court, I believe, and I think it ruled in Biden's favor that Texas has to take the razor wire down. And in fact, I think Biden was sending National Guard troops, and Texas is like, hey, we've got our own National Guard troops here in opposition, and several states pledged their support of according to USA Today, 25 states with Republican governors signed letters supporting Texas in border control fight, and that means that yes, we would send our National Guard down to support Texas to keep to help stem the tide of illegal immigrants essentially coming into our country, right?
Yeah.
And the logic behind those 25 Republican governors is, they feel the Biden administration has abdicated its constitutional compact duties to the states. Texas has every legal justification to protect the sovereignty of our states and our nation, right?
Absolutely.
So the states that have signed on to supporting Texas Governor Greg Abbott are, and I'm not going to read all of them, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Nebraska. Okay. Montana, New Hampshire, Ohio, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. So, there's 25 states that have openly said, hey, we will come to your aid. That it's pretty crazy to think, right, that we're in a situation such as this. We know
we've never seen it before.
Yeah, we know
so many states come together saying think about this, Tim. This is happening in our own country.
I know.
That you got 18, 20-something different states come and say, dude, we're willing to go down to the Lone Star State and help you. And then all of a sudden, the C word starts coming up.
Right.
And people start panicking a little bit, but can you really blame them for bringing that up? And what I mean by that on Woke Nation is people saying about the possibility of there being such civil war in there like that. So, and I'm some people might call it conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's true or not, but what we're witnessing right now is so unprecedented to have so many states come together saying we are willing to send our own state troops to come and help you.
Right. And so on Monday, January 22nd, the Supreme Court voted 5-4 to allow Border Patrol agents to remove razor wire set up by Texas Governor Abbott. Right. Texas had sued to stop Border Patrol agents from cutting the concertina wire last year, saying it illegally destroyed state property and undermined security. The Department of Homeland Security welcomed the Supreme Court order. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security sent a letter to Texas on Tuesday the 23rd, telling the federal government, or telling Texas the federal government's demand is for you to remove the razor wire and everything, right? And so it's just, there have been several deadline issuances that have come and passed, and Texas is we are not going to adhere to what you're doing because, again, we have a duty to protect our own border, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
On the 29th of January, which was Monday, more than 24 attorney generals signed a letter of support for the state of Texas' fight to secure its border, addressed to Biden and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
Yeah. We have absolutely no.
Yeah, it's.
He didn't even know how when they were talking about the whole thing with fentanyl and stuff like that. They were, they actually had congressional people asking Mayorkas,
right,
who was supposed to be Director of Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many people were brought into word from this particular? Do you know how much fentanyl has been going up? Do you even knew the numbers or anything like that? He knew absolutely nothing. I sat there and I watched him for 20 minutes sitting up there in front of a congressional committee trying to figure out, answer this question. I have no idea.
Yeah, not surprised.
It's really? Director of Homeland Security people.
Right. And so I think at this point, there hasn't been any formal resolution or anything at this point. Governor Abbott, to his credit, is standing his ground. But there has been nothing, honestly, that has been done, I think, beyond these. Here's another letter. Supreme Court said you got to take it down. Texas gave the finger. It almost seems like a stalemate. I personally, I'm in the camp of defending our border and what Texas is doing. At least somebody is doing something.
Right.
Right. Congress isn't doing anything about immigration. It's being thrown around both by the Democrats and the Republicans in an election year.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to do anything about it because of the potential political backlash, right? If it comes to getting reelected or anything like that. But yet everybody wants to bitch, piss, and moan and recognize that we need to do something, right? I mean, it was a hot topic during every single Republican presidential candidate debate.
It was.
Right? Leading up to Super Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, Trump winning on Super Tuesday, but Haley still is staying in the race and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They all talk about it and like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, but nobody's taking action. And the thing of it is, it's been this way.
Yeah.
Right? Long before Biden, I think every presidential debate or even presidential election going, I think back to 2000, early 2000s,
mm-hmm.
immigration in some capacity has always been, yes, we need to do something. Closing it, is too drastic. Do we need better pathways? Sure.
I mean, Chuck Schumer at one point where stood on the congressional floor and everything, he was saying, years ago, we're talking about how it was a big thing where, so this even goes back to the Obama administration, they talked about it and all. There was a term that they used where for like kids who, they weren't born, their parents came across the border, but then they were born here, and then there was a big thing where should they be sent back even though they were born in America and all this other stuff, and that's a big thing. Another thing I was going to bring up too, and all, because you had mentioned there being so many states that are now being involved. They actually have a right. Now, some people must say, well, why does Nebraska or Wyoming or any of those states have anything to do with this? Well, I'll tell you the reason why. Because what's going on is that for a time, there were people who were being put on buses and put on airplanes and pretty much shipped at midnight. Where a lot of people who are locals would not notice and shipped to all these different places, particularly tend to be places where they tend not to go Democratic.
Right.
All right.
So Chicago.
Chicago, Philadelphia, Buffalo, New York, and everything. Yeah. Where the hell does anybody who is from Guadalajara know anything about being in Buffalo, New York?
Yeah, Florida, all the way up to what DeSantis bust him up to Martha's Vineyard,
and
stuff.
Exactly.
We don't want it here, type of thing.
Right. So, but my question is that the reason why I think you have states like Nebraska and the like are so interested in it is because even before this current administration, also we were looking at people who were coming across the border illegally, and we're here on UnWoke Show, we're not trying to say that every person that comes across the border is doing something bad. We understand that. But we do understand that there are situations now where we had one gentleman that was in California like that who had crossed the border 4 times and ended up murdering a girl in California.
Right.
So we've seen different situations like this going on all across the country, and what these states, at least in my opinion, it seems like why they're responding the way that they're responding. They're responding the way they're responding because they're like, look, this shit is ending up in our borders because the federal government is not doing what they're supposed to do. We have a vice president that states that they're supposed to go down there and be the, quote, border czar, and has yet to be there.
So, to your point of some of the nefarious people coming into our country, the This is from December 11th of 2023 in the New York Post. Texas high school cheerleader Elizabeth Medina was stabbed to death and left in her bathtub by an undocumented immigrant living in the U.S. on an expired visa.
There you go.
I think for some reason, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like in Indiana there was killed. He was a drunk driver.
Man.
I'd have to. I'm actually looking up to see if I can find it right now. But if I remember correctly, this guy. Killed somebody in. He was on the interstate, I believe, and he had been deported twice, and he had come back several times.
Right.
Oh, okay. Here it is. This is from February 6, 2018. Indianapolis Colts Edwin Jackson killed by illegal immigrant.
See, I mean, and that's the problem. More so, you can understand the frustration of American citizens such as myself,
right? And
people who are in these states who are complaining, when they're sitting up there and they're hearing administration sit up saying, "Oh, the border," like Mayorkas, "Oh, the border's secure." So you're trying to tell us we're looking at this bridge that's down there on the south. All right, so Arizona, Texas, like that, okay, where there are thousands of people standing, sitting, whatever it is, under this bridge.
Yep.
And you're basically expecting to tell us, the person who is the director of Homeland Security,
right,
is trying to tell us that the border's secure. Are we not to believe our eyes?
No, of course not.
That's what we're going on, right? Yeah. See, this is what it goes back to several episodes before, and also that a lot of you people are part of UnWoke Show who are Americans, so you're not understanding. They think you're stupid.
Right. So here's what it is. An NFL star's death by an alleged drunk driver has sparked a political row after it emerged the suspect was in the U.S. illegally. And this is coming from the BBC. Again, this is from 2018. Indiana police say the driver who killed NFL player Edwin Jackson was a Guatemalan who had been deported twice.
Wow.
Manuel Orrego Zavala, 37, was allegedly drunk when he crashed his vehicle into Jackson 26 and an Uber driver standing by the roadside, killing both.
It's ridiculous.
And so, it's... I mean, this guy, you've got somebody who's deported twice but manages to... come back.
Yes.
And in that time, kill somebody.
Right. And the thing is that, like you said, people are talking about, we need to do this, that, and the other. But then the people who actually have the power to be able to do something are either A, not doing anything.
Yep.
Or B, they're stopping the people who are actually trying to do something, who have the authority to be able to, as basically the leader of their particular state, to actually do something.
Yep.
When the ones who have the true power, i.e. being the federal government, have chosen to sit there and say, no, you can't do something like that. Can you explain why?
Yeah. He was deported in 2007 and again in 2009.
So that means he was here for 2 years.
Yeah.
And who knows what he's done prior to that. My question is this. Is he dead himself, or did they capture him? I mean, where is this guy now? We're not talking about the victim. Obviously, we understand the tragic loss or so of a life and everything. So because of a drunk driver, we understand that.
It doesn't say. I think they may have kicked him back. He's in jail, I would imagine, but the article doesn't go on to say what happened to him.
Conveniently,
it's just the fact that that illegal immigration is a political football. Mm-hmm. It's almost a political joke at this point, to be honest with you. We have a problem. I applaud Texas for standing up and at least doing something.
Yes.
there have been promises on both sides to fix the immigration problem. That's a joke. And yeah, I don't care if you're an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
Just register to become a U.S. citizen,
Mm-hmm.
pay taxes, and don't kill anybody.
Right.
Right? And it will not be an issue whatsoever.
And the thing is that, going further with what you just said, which is the right process of the rule of law, you and I both know people who have done exactly that process. People we see on a daily basis, and also I know of a particular friend, and also who came over from Europe, so was separated, from their loved one for 6 months. But they went ahead and they did all the processing and the paperwork, paid $1,000, stuff like that. And you can imagine how, when I have this discussion with them, how they're upset. They're like, wait, why is it that I had to go through the entire process, and yet you're having people coming completely over illegally? And you know what? That's just one part of it. See, we're just talking about people who supposedly want to just come over here for quote-unquote freedom. Well, you and I just heard about 3 days ago about some guy like that, which obviously was not Hispanic. But when was asked the question, who are you? He basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, UnWoke Nation, he basically said, the reason why you don't know about me is because you're not smart enough to know about me. But one day you will know exactly who I am.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Turns out, the guy apparently is actually connected to a terrorist group in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Who is actually associated towards Hezbollah.
Of course.
Who just crossed our border. Do you think our president should start paying attention right now?
Well, but this can has been kicked down the road for so long. Mm-hmm. I personally, at this point, I know it said if just come here and register, pay your taxes, and I still believe that, but I also believe it's time to close the door.
Yes.
Sorry, folks.
But the door was closed.
Yeah, sorry, folks. U.S. is closed.
Yep.
Get out of here. Take a hike. And if you're an illegal and you don't register and you're not registered,
mm-hmm.
mass deportation.
Right. But you see that. But the thing is that the opposing powers are going and they're saying like, "Oh, that just sounds so cruel and stuff like that." Because that's the thing, Tim. See, at one point we did have a closed border.
Yeah,
we did. You could march your butt up here in a caravan, but you're stopping at the border. Mm-hmm. Because two things happen where, and I don't know if some of you guys out there on UnWoke Nation or maybe it happened in your country, but we had a situation and everything so where we had thousands of people, and matter of fact, they probably say there's another one coming. And also, they were marching from, Costa Rica and all these different places where they would get all the way to the border, and all this is about 4 years ago. And so we decided to come all the way to the border, mm-hmm. and they would complete stops like, no, you got to rule the law, you got to wait for your processing, whatever the case may be. The president at the time of Mexico, realizing there were so many people, which majority of those countries right there from Central America speak Spanish. The president at that time basically said, look, if you would like, you can stay here in Mexico. In other words, you're not going to go processing, you have to do anything like that. You can literally stay here in Mexico. Heck, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who can speak Spanish. That's great.
Right.
You think? Yeah. They said no.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So my question is like, yes, we've been dealing with immigration all this time, but now we've seen an enhancement of immigration happening over the course of the last couple of years. And now the reason why it's such a hot topic is because, people are seeing these effects in other states.
Right.
And that's why these states, I believe, are coming forward saying like, hey, man, enough's enough. Governor Abbott, what do you need to do for us to help? What do we do to protect Americans?
I don't know. At this point, each state has its own set of borders. If I'm a state that borders Texas, Oklahoma, for example. Mm-hmm. Sorry, folks, borders closed.
Right. Mexico, Louisiana. It's like
you can't. No, it would take that drastic of measure, right? And it's mm-hmm. like, well, how do you screen people that aren't illegals and stuff? That's
right.
It's an all or nothing thing at this point in order to make the point that something has to be.
And that's why I think, there's so many people, are interested in the story and why you're seeing the hashtag on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, saying, I stand with Texas.
Right.
Because it's the first time we're seeing someone like Governor Abbott who's coming forward saying, like, look, no, I'm not putting up with your crap. I'm not putting up with this crap. My citizens who voted me to take care of them as Texans, wants me to protect the border. I'm going to do my job. Now, just understand, it's like, Abbott's popularity has gone up and down and like that. So, but recently, obviously, and especially with this has become a really, really big thing where it's like, people are seeing what he's doing, and to know that you have other leaders in our country that are governors willing to do the same thing. Hats off to him. And I hope he continues doing it all, because it makes absolutely no sense that there is one step higher than him. They're on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, who realizes there's a situation and chooses not to do anything. And what he has done is sit there and say, I don't care if you want to defend the people of your state. We still want you to flood the country.
Right. Yeah.
It makes no sense.
I agree. This is one of those situations where it's time. Doors closed.
Yep.
Go someplace else. Rich, it's always great to talk with you, man. UnWoke Nation, we want to hear from you. You can reach us at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. That is feedback@unwoketheshow.com. And as always, guys, stay unwoke.
See you next time.